It is one of the classic Hollywood movies ever, so classic that the Coen brothers actually made an entire movie based on the movie within a movie here. It's Preston Sturges' 1941 movie, Sullivan's Travels. Let's analyze it, review it, and analyze it, coming up next. Sullivan's Travels is about a Hollywood director, John Sullivan, who wants to make a movie of dark, gritty social realism, ostensibly about the Great Depression in America and all the poor people in it. But he's made a bunch of stupid comedies earlier in his career. That's what he's known for. So he's trying to make a movie based on the novel, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Now, you've probably heard Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Because, as I said, the Coen brothers, they made a movie titled Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And that's supposed to be, in this movie for Sullivan, a movie of dark, gritty realism that's going to tell the truth about capitalism versus labor, maybe argue for the common folks out there who are poor.
I want this picture to be a commentary on modern conditions, stark realism, the problems that confront the average man.
But with a little sex.
A little, but I don't want to stress it. I want this picture to be a document. I want to hold a mirror up to life. I want this to be a picture of dignity.
The problem with him is he's a very, very wealthy Hollywood director who has no clue about poor people in the United States. So his grand idea is to dress up as a poor person, a homeless person, to go be a tramp on trains and to walk around and see the indigent poor in the United States so that he can do an actual movie with genuine feelings and sentiments about them. Now, every time he goes out, at least in the first half of the movie, and dresses up and tries to become a poor person, he keeps coming back to Hollywood by accident, as if, as he says, fate is trying to return him back to Hollywood and keep him from making his movie. And along the way, he meets a very beautiful Veronica, beautiful blonde in this movie, who's an extra in films, and she's trying to break into Hollywood. She doesn't know who he is at first. Later, she learns that he is a famous Hollywood director. One of the questions is he going to help her out in her Hollywood career? Second question, this is a romance, a screwball comedy. Will they get together and be married in the end? Now, this movie comes on the heels of the Great Depression, between the Great Depression and World War II, and it really is very interesting commentary on Hollywood, what movies are, what movies should be during the Depression, whether movies ought to show the truth and depict poor people and make you feel bad and dirty, and so that you'll feel all the terrible social problems and the weight of them by watching certain movies that are dramas or tragedies or something like that. Think Grapes of Wrath, for example, by John Steinbeck, and then the movie made about it. But then there's this question, well, maybe you should actually supply light entertainment. One, entertainment about rich people, as you see in this movie, and two, comedies, whether they're stupid slapstick comedies, screwball comedies like this movie. The question is, what kind of entertainment do people need during the era of the Depression, or really at any point in human history? And Sullivan's Travels is not a binary movie going, well, it's either this one or that one. In fact, this is a movie that not only does both of those things. It's a screwball comedy with heavy social realism in it. It's also then a commentary on both kinds of movies. And I view this movie as Sturges sort of working out the question of, should I be more like Frank Capra with his heavy sentimentalism, dark at times, and yet ending lightly, comically? Or should I be more like, say, Harold Lloyd comedies? I say that because Sturges made a comedy with Harold Lloyd, Chaplin, Keaton, and any kind of stupid comedy coming out from the 20s through 1941. So what is Sturges' solution? It really is to say, comedy is the main thing. We're going to envelop tragedy within comedy. We're going to show you the social realism, but it's going to be surrounded by the orderliness and the fun entertainment of comedy itself. And so you have a stand-in maybe for Sturges or just generic Hollywood directors in the John L. Sullivan character here, played really well, I think, by the classic Sturges actor who's in 3 movies with him, Joel McCrea.
I wanted to make you something outstanding. Something you could be proud of, something that would realize the potentialities of film as the sociological and artistic medium that it is, with a little sex in it. Something like
Capra. I know.
What's the matter with Capra?
And he plays a really interesting character because it is a classic problem for Hollywood. You have very rich people from all kinds of backgrounds, but once they get to Hollywood and are there for a while, they maybe forget their background. They live a very wealthy lifestyle, Can they actually know poor people, love the plight of poor people, and portray it well? Will they be accurate in their portrayals? This movie asks those kinds of questions, and at several points, I think maybe the whole movie says, no, it's impossible to know what those people are like without living their actual lives for a long time and having their hardships, and even then maybe you don't know what they are. There's a line in this movie about the morbidly rich are the only people who, can appreciate the struggle of poor people and love the depiction of that in movies because they're just an object of pity for them and sort of a vanity project for the rich, as they are, at least at the beginning of this movie, with John L. Sullivan wanting to depict the down-and-out poor people in the United States.
I'm going out on the road to find out what it's like to be poor and needy, and then I'm going to make a picture about
If you'll
it.
permit me to say so, sir, the subject is not an interesting one. The poor know all about poverty, and only the morbid rich would find the topic glamorous.
But I'm doing it for the poor, don't you
I
understand?
doubt if they would appreciate it, sir. They rather resent the invasion of their privacy, I believe quite properly, sir.
Now, this movie is about poor people, and it's exploitative. It uses them in order to create a comedy and to make money. And that's one of the questions this movie raises, is when you make a movie about a subject that is down and out, downtrodden, hard up, poor people, people who are struggling with depression, it doesn't matter what they are. The movie makers are different from the subjects in the movie. Is it not exploitative to make a movie about them and garner fame and wealth from that? This movie is about that. It talks about that, and then it does it itself. And that's the meta commentary that this movie has throughout itself, is it knows what it itself is about. It itself is talking about itself, this movie is. That's what makes it really interesting. The ending of this movie does settle, and this is a bit of a spoiler alert, on the idea that people need to be made to laugh, and so make stupid TV shows, make slapstick movies, because that's what everybody needs, and that's what John L. Sullivan, as a poor person in the chain gang, figures out. But yet I find that the ending of this movie is denied by other parts of it. There are parts of this movie and John L. Sullivan experiences in them, and you feel in the third act, you feel the weight of him being thrown into the chain gang unjustly and having to work in hard labor for 6 years, maybe not getting out of jail, unjustly put there, not having a lawyer. You feel the weight of that. I mean, this movie dredges up all this emotion for him. And so I think this movie also says, social realism in movies is great. And in fact, the world needs reforming, and we need art that helps us reform the world. So this movie has it both ways. Entertainment for the sake of laughs, social realism for the sake of reform. Put those two together, and I think Sturges is wrapping comedy around this social reform angle here. This is one of the best movies about Hollywood's relationship to the real world, or Hollywood's relationship to the rest of America. A troubling problem, I think, throughout movie history because of the fame and wealth that films, garner people. And they're going to create art, they're going to create scripts and narratives that are going to, fuel the imaginations of everybody. And yet they're so removed, supposedly, from the world of ordinary people. So can movies actually get into the lives of ordinary people and help them and depict their lives and make them feel better about themselves? This movie asks all those questions, which are still around today and have been there forever. Last, I think this movie is extremely well made. It's very snappy, as all Sturges movies are. Great lines in here, and I think the directing is outstanding. There's so many great things about this movie. I could just talk about it for hours, but let's talk about it in the comments. So what do you observe about this movie? What do you want to say about it? Sullivan's Travels, I think it's great. And please subscribe to this channel for more great content like this. Thank you and have a great day.